Dive alert, both Becky and Matt's version on the Neo Geo Pocket Color features a horribly broken and boring 2-player link cable verse mode. Dive alert is essentially 90% visual novel and 10% this. This is the gameplay. See that shape in the middle? That's you. See those other colored shapes with the impossibly small numbers on them? Those are the bad guys. The entire gameplay takes place from this radar screen composed of only very slow-moving shapes. Then, you try and sink your enemies by launching slow-moving torpedoes from a confusing UI. And you're limited to 2 shots on screen at one time, so be sure not to miss. As boring as the single-player campaign is, the 2-player verse mode is even worse and can soft-lock your single-player progress. When 2 systems are connected with a link cable, selecting the Alt-P option on the main menu activates the verse match. However, the game just instantly starts regardless of the other player, meaning player 1 can choose this option and gets thrown into the match while player 2 is still on the main menu, which is confusing and broken by itself. But when both players activate the Alt-P mode, they randomly spawn somewhere on the screen to duke it out. This boring I hunt you, you hunt me mode is not fun and takes entirely too long. Unlike the single player campaign, you need to constantly spam the option button radar scan to have your opponent's ship appear. But as soon as they move, you'll need to scan again because it only marks the opposing sub at the time of the scan, essentially leaving behind a non-interactive ghost icon. If your opponent keeps moving, there's basically 0 chance of landing a blow. Making matters worse, it takes over a dozen shots to sink your opponent. Okay, so here's why it isn't smart to play this multiplayer mode. The winner gets to claim a prize on the loser's carcass, but then can exit back to the main menu, save, and use that item in the single player campaign. Okay, cool, a nice bonus. However, the loser gets effed in the A big time. At the game over screen, the losing sub is sent back to the main menu and left with the high repair bill. If you don't have enough money, you literally cannot continue the single player campaign. At that point, the only way to progress is to start again from the beginning or to grind this cheap Space Invaders vertically shooting minigame for hours since it only earns a few bucks at a time. Dive Alert deserves some credit for trying something different, a literal sub simulator where you need to carefully time each action, monitor sinking and raising with an oxygen supply, maintaining the well-being of your sub, and anticipate the enemy's movements. But when it's all wrapped around gameplay that's slower than molasses from a boring and confusing presentation, one that can soft-lock your progress, I can't help but think this wasn't fully tested. Also, I was unable to beat the second chapter as the player is so underpowered against AI that hits harder and moves faster. And why are there 2 versions, Becky and Matt? The story is essentially the same in both, they just feature different starting subs. This isn't like Pokemon where there's tons of monsters or items to collect and trade. There's no need for 2 versions and no need for this 2-player link cable verse mode. In fact, it's recommended to never play this multiplayer mode so you don't screw yourself. But what do you think? Have you ever played Dive Alert? Did you ever sink enemy subs after a star exploded that caused the world to flood? Do you enjoy soft-locking your progress after you spent a good 3 hours playing this stupid game? Let me know in the comments. And for more link cable nonsense, see the links in the description. Until next time, thank you for watching and game on.